Okay, the Mashgiach has spoken. We start the daf.
I had to record in case from our went off. We have it.
What's with Peretz?
I don't know. He's in the white show. See, the white show has jammers or something, Peretz.
Maybe he started drinking already. You don't know.
Yes, what happens when you drink too much?
Maybe, you're giving me a maybe. That's very nice of you. Maybe.
No, the maybe. No, the maybe is it's not the cell phone connection. It's your voice. That was meaning he's not talking straight. There's nothing to do with cell phone connection. That's what
was that Mordecai behind you? Who was that?
Anyways,
yes, it was. It came for a refill. Reb David's speech is halfway done.
Yeah.
Oh
The
shoot,
two
I'm
Steins
recording.
in the same place. Just stops the internet completely.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Anyways, are you starting it again, Peretz, or? No? Okay, we're going. Top line, yeah. Right? So if he stole it and he was makdish it and then he shefted it. Right? So the Mishnah says we have a lot of hektish tonight. So if a guy again he steals, then he's going to be chayav kefil about it because he stole it. Then he was makdish it, then he shefted it. So he doesn't have to pay daled behei. Why? Because when he shefted it, it already belonged to hektish, right? And Mamela didn't belong to a person. So Amri, Bishlama atvicha loy mechayev. So we understand why he's not chayev on the shchita, the chikatavach, the hektish katavach. But when he shefted from hektish. V'loy demari katavach, and he didn't shecht the owners, because meaning we had this a few blot ago last week. Once it changes reshuyas, so then it's no longer the owners, and he only pays daled behei if it belongs to the owner. So v'loy demari katavach. So once he made it hektish, it no longer belongs to the owner. Ela hektish l'chayev. But why doesn't he become chayev from making it hektish? Why? Mali machal lahedjit, mali machal l'shmayim. Let's say he would have sold it to somebody. So when you sell it to somebody, so now mechira is how do you call it? Mechira is daled behei. You sold it to daled behei. So when you made it hektish, that was also sale, right? So mali machal lahedjit, mali machal lahedjit, mali machal l'shmayim. Right? So the Gemara says, Hamani, Reb Shimon, it's Reb Shimon. The Omar, Kachim Shechayev Achuyusim, B'Reshusei Demare Kaim. So we answered, it's going according to Reb Shimon, who holds that Kachim, that you're chayev with their achrayas, that always stays in the Reshus of the owner. Meaning, when we're going to see more of this in the bottom of the Omer, when a person has to make a neder, not when he has to make a neder, when a person makes a neder, he's responsible to bring a carbon. When he says, I'm going to bring a carbon oil, let's say. So if that carbon gets lost, he has to bring another carbon. He has to go find another animal because he, on himself, was machayev a carbon. But if he just donates an animal and says, this animal is going to be a carbon oil, then he's not responsible. Right? He's not responsible for that. I mean, he's responsible, but if it gets lost, it's not his problem. Right? So anyways, so we're saying that it's going according to Reb Shimon, who holds that when kachim you're chayev in the achrayas, so since the guy is chayev to be responsible for it, so memela it's still considered in his reshus, because otherwise why would he be responsible for it? So therefore, it's if it wouldn't be that it was made hektish, right? No, sorry. So then memela, him selling it for to hektish is not going to make it not be a reason for him to be chayav daled behei. So Gemara says, well, you just said it's going to Reb Shimon.
Well, then why is it really considered a Rishina Rishus? It remained in his Rishus.
It remained in his Rishus.
Right, to some degree, because Davar going moment. So right, you need a Shina Rishus to be kind, correct? For like a hektish to be other buying kafa. So where is the Shina Rishus if it remains in your Rishus? It was in your Rishus to begin with. And the owner was miyash in your Rishus. It remains in your Rishus to some degree. There's any Shina Rishus to work with the Yish.
It doesn't need to.
Of course, you need Shina Rishus to be kind of.
Right? No, but
According to Man Yomer, Yiddish is not enough.
no, but it was made into hektish.
So what? If you hold this davar garam and there's no real shina rishus, I still have a din to it. It remains in my rishus.
It's I think it's a mix of both.
So Mamanoshach, if it left your rishus, that should be like a mechira. If it didn't leave your rishus, it shouldn't. You shouldn't have a din to be kind of it.
No, it's a half. It's half baked. It's half baked.
So it's like being a little pregnant. I'm not copying that far.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So then why are you kind of it? You can't say half baked is enough.
He
to be
wasn't.
Kinda.
He wasn't.
He is kind of it. How is he makdish if he's not kind of it?
Well, how is he makdish it?
If he, it needs to be shalai for him to be makdish, and that only works because it's hektish, and you take it out of rishus bailam altogether. But if you can't put it weiter into your rishus. If you put it weiter in your rishus, you didn't change the rishus.
You need two shine rishuyas over here.
Well, you need to take it out of your rishus. If you didn't do more, it remains the same.
You already took it out of the balabayas' rishus.
Correct.
Whatever, however that happened, however that worked, there was a shine rishus, shine mokum, whatever it is. Right?
But if it stays in your rishus, you didn't do more.
Correct. You didn't do more, but it's still hektish. Right?
Why? And that's my question. You weren't kind of.
However, he was kind of from the balabas.
I don't understand how he's kind of. That's all I'm asking.
Okay,
it doesn't make sense that he's kind of such a thing.
Yeah. Okay. I mean it's a mixture of both. That's the thing. Right? Fine. So then the Gemara says, the Gemara asks, "Some of the sefer of Shimon, Avi Reish Lav Rav Shimon." Well, you're saying that the sefer is going to the Rav Shimon. I'm sorry, you're saying the Reish is going to the Rav Shimon. The sefer at the end of the Mishnah, it said Rav Shimon says that it depends on which type of carbon he's responsible for. Meaning, meaning it depends if he's responsible or not. So if the sefer is Rav Shimon, then the Reish can't be Rav Shimon. The Gemara answers, "Allah ma'askina b'kachim kalim." We're talking about kachim kalim, right? Which is Shlomim, Bechor, Karban Pesach, right? So those are Kachim Kalim. So I mean, he didn't make it into heavy Kachim like Chatas, Oila, and Asham. But leave it to Rav Yosei Glili, Damar Kachim Kalim, Maman Bailam, who were Shusei Kami. It is going according to Rav Yosei Glili, who says Kachim Kalim is Maman Bailam, and it's in his Rishus, right? So Mamela, Kachim Kalim stays in the original person's Rishus. Which again you have to say Akiva. You have to say like it's somewhere in the middle. Right?
Rashi actually uses a lashon that it's your Shina Hashem, it's not Shina Rishus.
Rashi on Kachim Kalim?
Both Rashis. Rashi uses a lashon Shina Hashem, not Shina Rishus.
And Rashi the Rabbi Yossi Aglili, right at the beginning. It says Umir Mershus Marakama Afkinu Shem Hek.
He uses it in Rav Shimon also.
Yeah.
Marakama Afkinu Shem Hektish.
Even though it's his and it's in his Rishus, since he called it a Shem Hektish, the Shinei Hashem removes it from the Bible.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if that's what he means. Okay, fine. So anyway, so that's the second part. So the Gemara says, "I will cut my." But what happens if the Ganav did make it hektish? With kachim misham tashumi dalad v'chamisha. So according to you, he paid dalad v'hei. If he made it into kachim, adatani reisha. This time we learned the reisha ganav v'tava. If he stole and he shech v'rach hektish, and then he made it hektish misham tashumi dalad v'hei, and he has to pay dalad v'hei. Lift like this if he da. Why doesn't the Mishnah just say, "Bamed varmavurim bekachim kalim"? That's only bekachim kalim. Bekachim sham tashumei arva chamisha. Meaning that should be a very important point for the Mishnah to point out, right? Meaning, so if the Gemara, the Mishnah is only referring to kachim kalim, right? Then you have to point out that kachim kachim is a different din. He's going to have to pay dollar behei. Ella, so the Gemara says no, different teretz. Loilam, loishna kachim kachim, and loishna kachim kalam. There's no difference. So the kashalach mali machul lahedyin, mali machul l'shemayim. This you're going to say. So then, what's the difference? If the crook sells it, would have sold it to somebody else instead of making it hektish, he'd be chayiv dollar behei because he sold it. So when he makes it hektish, he's also selling it, but he's selling it to hektish, right? So what's the teretz? Meikara. No, so machul lahedyin. When he sells it to a hedjit, to meikara tura de Ruvain, v'hashta tura de Shimon. When it was originally Ruvain's shar, and now it became Shimon's shar. Machul l'shamayim, when he sells it to Shamayim, meikara tura de Ruvain, v'hashta tura de Ruvain. In the beginning, it was Ruvain's shar, and now it's still Ruvain's shar. Right? I can't say I understand this terrace. Right? But meaning it's still, even though it was made over to hektish, the owner, the original owner, still has some sort of name association. Would that be the way to say it? Right? So Mamela, that's why it's still considered as if it's in the original person's name, and he doesn't, and it's not considered like he sold it to hektish. Right? Okay.
Well, that goes with what we were saying, that the whole way you're being kained is through Shini Hashem.
The whole way you're meaning the shame, and you're saying that the shame is the same here.
Right.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so then Reb Shimon, the last lines in the Mishnah, Reb Shimon says where that depends, he only has to pay daled v'hei if it's an animal where he is not responsible for it. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. I'm mixing it up with the Gemara. Reb Shimon says in the Mishnah that kodshim that he's chayiv in the achrayis, he has to pay daled v'hei. If he's not chayiv in the achrayis, then he doesn't. Then he's potter. I think I might have explained it the wrong way 2 days when we learned the Mishnah. But basically, the way Gemara is understanding it now is that Reb Shimon is holding that if the guy made a net, meaning the crook, when he made it into hektish, made a nether out of it, right? Or if he made it into a nedava, it's going on the crook. The Gemara is going to change that whole pshat, but the Gemara in the beginning right now has that havamina. So let's see, so Amri. So they say nehi. Now, meaning just before we start the Gemara again, how could Reb Shimon hold that he's chayiv for making it into hektish, right? How can you say that, right? Meaning he has to hold that, like we just asked that you sold it to hektish. I mean, if you made it hektish, it should be the equivalent of selling it, right? And then you should be chayiv. So, and we said no for all the 3 terutzim, right? Well, the Lamaisa, Reb Shimon, who holds that you are chayiv, must hold that when you made it hektish, you're paying daled v'hei because you sold it. That's what you have to say. Right? So the Gemara says, Amri nehi desavar Reb Shimon, mali machul lahedyin, mali machul l'shamayim. What's the difference if you sold it to the hedyin, or what's the difference if you sold it to shamayim? You're still going to be chayiv and daled v'hei. If chamibayle, but he should say the opposite of what he said. Kachim shechayiv achar yuson potter. If it's kachim that he's chayiv in the achrayis, then he should be potter. Why dakati le'nofek mirashusay? Since he's responsible for it, it didn't transfer over into the rishus of the hektish. Meaning, again, we're saying that Reb Shimon has to hold that he sold it to hektish is considered. I mean, making it hektish is considered like he sold it, right? So if that's the case, if he's still responsible to replace this carbon, that means it's not fully in Hektish's hands. So then he should be potter. He shouldn't be paying daled v'hei because it's not a complete sale. Kachim she'ein chayiv, but if it's kachim that he's not chayiv to be responsible for it, that means it's totally hektish. The mafkile mirashusay, it's totally out of his rishus. So it should be the opposite, right? Again, Reb Shimon in the Mishnah said that if he's responsible, he's chayiv, and if he's not responsible, then he's potter. And now we're saying it should be the opposite. So the Gemara changes the totally changes the pshat. Amri Reb Shimon Amilsa Chritika. Reb Shimon is not going on what the Mishnah was talking about until now about hektish. He was going on something else. This is what it says. Somebody, back to what we had way back. If a ganav steals from a ganav, he does not pay dalibeh. V'chein goynev hektish mi beis bailim potter. And somebody who steals hektish from the owner's house is also potter, meaning the owner is the one that made it hektish. Till now we've been saying that the crook made it hektish. Now we're saying that the owner made it hektish, and then the guy stole it from him. So we're saying that it's the same thing, goynem min aganav. So, and then if the guy steals hektish from somebody's house, he's potter, right? Meaning obviously, and then he shechted his potter, my timer, because it says b'kuna bebeis ish. It says and it was stolen from the person's house. The loimi beis hektish, and not when it was stolen from beis hektish. So since this owner made it into hektish, so memela, it's you can't steal it from that. That's the Tana Kamma. Reb Shimon Omer, kachim shchai b'achriyusan chayiv. If the owner is chayiv in the achrayus, meaning he made it into a neder, so then you're chayiv. Meaning the crook is chayiv dalei my timer. Karina me beguna me beisa ish. It's considered like he stole it from the man's house, right? Because since the man is achroi to replace this carbon if it gets lost, then it's as if he stole it from himself. But if he's not chayiv in achrayus, he's potter. Why? The like Karina me beguna beisa ish. Because we don't learn out. We don't say that it's guna beisa ish. Fine. So again. Now, with the Havamina, we thought that the crook made it hektish and then shefted it. Now the Maskana is saying, no, it's nothing to do with it. The owner made it hektish, and then the crook took it from the owner, and therefore, since he sold it, he took it from hektish, he is not going to pay dalid vehe, unless the guy had no responsibility for it, in which case, I'm sorry, if the guy had responsibility for it, then he would be chayiv, because it's as if he stole it from the guy. Right, fine.
So Rav Shimon would be masking to Rabbanan when it comes to the other din that it's considered hektish when you could take it out of the bounds of shus when it's meaning whatever we just said in the Rabbanan when it comes to hektish because you changed the shame.
I'm not sure if that's. Is that going to? You're saying that if he's masking to this rule no, he's what's the lashon? Mali shemayim. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Meaning he's in that regard he's talking masking to the Rabbanan.
What's that? That the Rabbanon that say it? No, the Rabbanon said we don't say it, right?
No, when it's considered Yeshina Hashem, and therefore you're not chayav al mechira. That's what the Rabbanon say.
Means he'll agree with that?
No, the maskana was there's no Shini Hashem.
When it comes to when you actually sell, but if you're makdish, there is Shina Hashem.
No, even if he's makdish, it's not because it's still Karina Shem Bayis.
Oh, you're saying there's no Shina Hashem, right? That's what I'm saying. But Reb Shimon,
the Gemara is asking the Reb Shimon. The only way to the beginning of this Gemara is the only way to explain Reb Shimon is that there is a Shini Hashem. Reb Shimon holds Mali Machil Laheti Mali Machil Shemai. So Mamela, we should switch the shita around. Kachav Shechayev B'Achriyusa is going to be Pater, and Kachav She'ein Chayev B'Achriyusa is going to be Chayev. That's what Reb Shimon should hold. That should remain. Reb Shimon should be the opposite of what he says in the Mishnah.
Okay, I'm not here. I'm not sure.
The Gemara doesn't answer it. It just says, okay, Rav Shimon's talking about a different din, so that's correct.
Exactly. Right. Masculine. Okay, so anyways, now we change. If there was the harder part of the daf was over. Now we another Reb Shimon, right? Reb Shimon said, right, we're talking about Reb Shimon here, that, and again, we said that we're talking about where the owner made the thing hektish, right? Now we have another Reb Shimon from 2 Mishnayos ago, or the 1 Mishnah ago, whatever, a few blot ago. The Reb Shimon held that if you shech the animal and it's not roi la'achila, like it's treif, or it was a shara niskal, and it's not edible, then he's held you don't pay daled behei. You don't pay daled behei. It's not edible, right? So now, how does that fit here? Michti shamin le Reb Shimon. Yeah, we're about 3, 6, 8 lines over the bottom. So Michti shamin le Reb Shimon. We heard from Reb Shimon Damar Shchita she'ein ruya loishma Shchita. We know that Shchita that's not roy to eat is not considered Shchita. So Kodshim Nami Shchita she'ein ruya he Kodshim. What did the guy do? What happened here? He took the guy's animal that was hektish and shechted it. Right? So now how could that be? That's also ba'achila. Meaning Reb Shimon says that if the owner who made this animal hektish is not responsible, right, for the hektish, then he's potter. But if he's responsible for the hektish, then this crook shechts it, he's going to be chayiv daled behei. How is he chayiv daled behei? He took somebody's hektish animal that has to be shechted in the Beis HaMikdash, and he shechted it in his backyard, which means it's also ba'achila.
What if he does a bad shchita?
If he does a bad shechita, he would be potter according to Reb Shimon too.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. Yeah, that would be a good thing for him, right? They told that's the first thing he'll do. Like, you sure you did a kosher shechita? Maybe you didn't do a kosher shechita.
Why isn't this a little bit different? It's not really a shechita that doesn't, what's it called, she'en ru'ya. It's a shechita ru'ya. It just happens to be kachim.
Right. So that gets into the previous Gemara, right?
That's another machlokes, no gersh, and you can hear both sides that very easy. No.
Didn't we have it in the previous Gemara when we discussed his Asr Ba'achila? Didn't we want to be machalik between different types of Isser? Whether it's intrinsically Asr? We said something like that, no? Anyways, but the Gemara's kashi here again says, according to Reb Shimon, if the owner makes it hektish, and he is still responsible to replace that carbon, and then the crook comes and steals this thing, his carbon, his potential carbon, and he shechts it. Then he's chayiv daled behei. How? It's also ba'achila, and Reb Shimon in the other Mishnah holds it something that's also ba'achila. You can't be chayiv daled behei. That's a kasha. So Gemara is going to bring 3 terutzim. Yeah. So ki also Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan b'shoichet temimim mibifnim l'shem bailim. Now this temimim, this is for Gershon, threw me off. Why all of a sudden it's turning to plural? Well, he stole multiple animals, this guy? Right? Okay,
No, I thought it was just because we're learning Bava Kamma. If it would say tam, it would be back to carrot.
Really? That's it. I don't know. I'm saying I'm looking at this Tamimim. He's shechting lots of carbonas. Yeah. He's shechting one carbon. The guy stole one carbon. So we're saying that he shechted a carbon tamim, meaning non-mum, inside the Beis HaMikdash for the Bailim. So this guy's he's a big tzaddik, this guy. He stole the guy's animal, he brought it to the Beis HaMikdash, and he shechted it in the Beis HaMikdash on behalf of the guy. So therefore what? So therefore he's
somebody could shecht on your behalf without your permission?
Why not?
You're allowed.
I don't know. Is it like
That's
what I'm saying. He's except you stole it from him.
Right.
That's
I'm saying you're still negative.
It's a side issue.
Yeah. I think there are some scenarios where it doesn't work and some scenarios where it does work. But anyway, but there's a bigger kasha. Akiva, the Gemara's next kasha is a bigger kasha, right? But anyways, the teretz is that he shechted the animal on behalf of the Baal. Right? He stole it and he went and shechted it. So therefore, he's chayiv daled v'hei because it was mutter. He shechted in the Beis Hamikdash. But there's an obvious question. Well, if he shechted on behalf of the owner, that means he gave the animal back to him. In his mind, at least. I mean, again, he went into this guy's yard. He shechted he took his animal. Now he's a crook.
No, he's a big Talmud. He's a big London. My animal that I stole from him, which is now mine because he was Miyash. I'm shechting for him because I'm doing a chesed for this.
Right, exactly. Or he did some major tshuva or something in the interim, whatever it is. But when he decides to shecht it on behalf of the owner, he gave it back to him. So then he should be putter from everything. Right? He just gave back he gave back the stolen property. Right? Let's a Gemara's kasha. He gave the keren right back to the owners if he did it like that. No. What happened was he shechted on behalf of the, and then before he got this, the main thing that matters a carbon to be eaten is the blood being sprinkled on the mizbeach. And this guy spilled the blood. So therefore he did, the kohen did obviously, and then Memela, unless he's a kohen. Right? So Memela, since the blood was spilled, the carbon was never kosher. Memela never made its way back to the owner. I can't say I understand how that works. I don't understand because he shechted on behalf of the owner. So what if the blood spill that came later?
Well, my friend, it never was chazer bound because he's garam mammon.
When he shechted
the whole idea is garam mammon.
I guess, but when he shechted it on behalf of the owner, it went back to the owner.
It didn't.
It only goes
Rika, no? He needs Rika.
1 second. And let's say he shechted. He did. I understand he needed Zrika, but he already gave it back to the owner. Okay,
he didn't go.
Let's say he shechted and it was treif. Let's say it was a treifa. So then what? He didn't give it back to the owner.
The owner's chayiv a new one. As long as the owner didn't get the kapara that he needs out of it, he's chayiv a new one.
What?
In such a scenario, you stole nothing.
He said it was a shlomim,
it
wasn't for a kapara. It was a shlomim.
Maybe that. But I'm saying, let's say
it still has a purpose.
In a regular case, a crook steals a guy's animal, right? Then he decides, he has charot. So next day he brings it back to the guy. Guy says, "Oh, thank you very much, very good. Lavanit the glace. He's not chayav anything. He was minded. There's no kefil. Everything's hunky dory." The guy decides to shecht his animal, and it comes up treif. He says, "Oh, you returned me back a treif animal. Is that the way it's going to go?"
Why can't that go? Why can't he blame him?
He could try. I mean, you have to prove it. But I'm just saying, does that mean he didn't give? He gave back the animal, what he stole. I don't know. Okay, well, anyways, so Rabbi Yitzchak says it's somewhere where the blood spilled. Fine. So that was the first teretz was Rav Dimi and the name of Rav Yochanan. Now it's ki also Ravin Amar Rav Yochanan b'shoichet tamimim, right? He shechted tamimim bifnim shaloi l'shem b'ayim. So he shechted an animal that didn't have a mum, but he shechted it shaloi l'shem b'ayim. Right? This gets to what you were saying before, Akiva, right? That's he shechted it. That's considered a shkita ruya, right? Because it's Rashi says because it's not shaloi l'shman, it's kosher. But it doesn't work for the bailam l'shem chayva, right? Meaning he shechted it. It's in
Kosher.
Yeah, it's kosher, but the owner, meaning if the owner, it doesn't work for the owner because it was done shaloi l'shman, right? So he has to pay daled v'hei because he did a kosher shchita. The food was right to be eaten, but it doesn't work for the owner since if he didn't give it back to the owner, right? L'chayra, much more simple teretz than the blood spilling on the floor. Okay, on Talmud Beis now. For Rish Lakish Amar. Rish Lakish has a different teretz. Rish Lakish says b'shoichet bali mumin b'chutz, again plural, right? It's talking about where it was a bal mum, and he shechted it outside the Beis Hamikdash because a bal mum can be shechted outside the Beis Hamikdash, right? A bal mum, an animal that's a bal mum, you have to be paided, which we'll see coming up in a second. But you have to be paided, but he shechted it outside the Beis Hamikdash. So it was, again, he shechted it. It's roy la'achila. He didn't shecht it on behalf of the owner, so he didn't give it back, and that's that. Right? So those are the three tirutzim. So now Tehiba, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan. So it's interesting. How do you touch Tehi? Right? Like, isn't it from the word bitmiyah? He wondered. That's what I thought. Like bitmiyah, he had a question. Rashi says, right? Smelling, you smell a bottle, right? Tehi, right? Whatever it is, it means he had a kasha. That's the bottom line. Bottom line is it means he has a kasha.
I would have thought it's from Tayu, like Tayu Vavayu.
What, that it was empty?
Yeah. It's a Lashon Kasha, he's making something empty.
I hear. If you could tell me what Tayu is, and then I guess I could tell you what Tehi is.
I thought it was mixed up. Bewilderment. Tayu is the mixture of nothing and everything in the same space, which doesn't exist.
Pinst.
We said we ain't doing machshava in 1 minute and under. Okay, so yeah, all right. So anyway, so Tehiba Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Lazar asked the kasha. I'm sorry, Tehiba Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar had a kasha. The Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, meaning there's two versions of Rabbi Yochanan, right? Either he shechted the shame bailim, and the blood spilled, or he shechted it for himself in the Beis Hamikdash. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, shchita materes. The shechita is not what matters the animal. V'alo zrika materes. The throwing the blood on the Beis Hamikdash makes the zrika. Right? He's really asking on the second Rabbi Yochanan, not the first Rabbi Yochanan. Right? Well, I'm saying, well, it's Rashi. There's some tumult exactly who is going on, but the point is,
why is he asking the second terrace?
Yeah, so you have to see the Rashi. There's a Marsha on the Rashi. Why is Rashi? Rashi says he's going on the Rav and Aliba de Rabbi Yochanan.
But that seems very poshut. It's a shita ruya at the time.
Correct.
That means you have time on every single shita until zrika. It's a shita shena ruya because you need zrika. What kind of question is that?
Right, enochanami. So that's part of the tumah. But whatever, the main point of the kasha is that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the shechita is not what matters the animal to be eaten. The zrika matters it. Right? So when you shechted the animal, when the crook shechted the animal, it was not roy la'achila. So again, according to Reb Shimon with his shita, that in order to be chayiv daleh b'ei, the animal has to be edible. It's not edible. It's not edible until the blood gets sprinkled on the mizbeach.
Well, why isn't that a kasha on every single shechita? Shechita is not matter, melicha is.
The malicha only matters. You mean the meat is usher until you. I hear it's a good kasha. I mean, I think it's a good kasha. I hear that's an achraynish kasha. I mean, you're an achron, Gershon, but
it's the same type of kasha.
I hear.
What's the difference?
You're right. You're right. It's a good kasha. I don't.
Gershon, it's a kasha without varnishkes. It's kasha.
I don't know.
I think I've been waiting for that line, Aaron, for about 3.5 years.
Okay, good.
Let's finally find out if anybody knows what varnishkas are. I don't know if I know what they are either, but I know there's something that they serve in Hasidic wedding halls, maybe.
Hasn't do with chassidim.
No, I know.
From Litta.
It's the little.
And you like everybody else. Chassidim. What have to do with chassidim?
You're right, but I never got varnish goods in Lakewood. All right, I only get them in Williamsburg.
Well,
I think.
Ask Gershon if you touch up the word varnishkus, it means bow ties.
So you change it now to groats and bow ties. Parents.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So, but the kasha remains, right? He's saying again, Reb Shimon has this shita that it has to be roy la'achila in order for you to be chayiv dalet behay for the shita has to be roy la'achila. So it's not roy la'achila. Gershon's question aside, right? It's not roy la'achila because the zrika makes it roy la'achila, and the Reish Lakish, who says it was a balmum, shchita materes. The shchita is not what matters the balmum. Haloi pediya materes. You need to have a pidyon. You have to be paid it. Whether you paid it before the shchita, after the shchita, fine. But you need to be paid. You can't just go shech the balmum, a kachim that's a balmum. right? So you have to be paid. So the Gemara answer, Ishtamitze, Hadar Reb Shimon. Rabbi Lazar forgot what, I don't know if he forgot from the word Shemitah, it slipped away from him, right? That Kala Aymed Lizroi Kazarak Dami. He holds that as long as it's going to have the potential to be sprinkled on the Mizbeach, then that's as if it was already sprinkled. And anything that's going to be redeemed is already as if it was redeemed. Right? So Mamela, it's going to become mutter right away, even though it's not yet mutter. Since it will become mutter, so then it's fine. Which Gershon, that will answer you. Do we say Kalo Aymed L'Melicha? Do they say the rule? I don't know. Kalo Aymed L'Melicha, L'Melicha Dami, L'Chayra. Right? Anyways, so now the Gemara goes with this. We'll start this a little bit, and then we'll stop. So Kol Aymin Lizrak Kazarak Dami. How do you know that anything that's Aymin to be thrown is onto the Mizbeach is considered to be thrown? The Tanya, Reb Shimon Aymin Yesh Noiser Shu Matama Tumas Eichlin. Yesh Noiser Sheina Matama Tumas Eichlin. Oh, so a little bit about Dama. So there's something called Tumas Eichlin, right? Which is food that is found inside a kli cheres, right? Well, that's what I'm saying. That's only one version of it. You have not a version, but a application of it. So food becomes tummy, right? But it has to be edible. Food has to be edible. In order for something to become tummy, in order for food to become tummy, it needs to be mutter ba'achila, right? So then the question is, to what mutter ba'achila, to who? To yidin, to goyim, mutter ba'hana, asa ba'hana, right? So according to Reb Shimon, if it's iser hana, it doesn't become tummy. That's for sure. That's I think that's according to everybody.
Right? You mean like a cheeseburger doesn't count?
Correct. That would not become asa. Well, I don't know if you look at it, the cheese separate from the meat. I don't know, but yeah, something that's asa b'hana, like let's say a taco basa b'challah, right? So then it would doesn't have the ability to become tummy, right? But if you can feed it to others, right? Like Rashi says, the food that you can give to others, or to nachri, then that's called oichel. Yeah, and then he also says that if there was some point in the lifetime of this food that it was mutter, even if it becomes asur later, it still can become tamei. That's the main thing that we're focused on here. That as long as it had a shasa kosher, it's called, as long as the food had a time when it was kosher to be eaten, even though right now it can't be eaten, it still becomes tamei.
So then the cheeseburger's in. The cheeseburger's in. What made it asa was you had two things that were mutter, and you cooked them together, and now it's asa. So this is something that had a
cheeseburger. The cheeseburger was never mutter. No.
No, he's saying the meat was never.
But this thing was never mutter.
It's the cooking that makes it a cheeseburger. It's the cooking that makes it asur.
Well, so that's the thing. Is it considered a new entity? That's really
Chiddushu. That's the Gemara. Chiddushu.
Correct. That's the That's the chiddush of it. That's two heterim, and you mix it together, it becomes asur. Right.
But Gershon doesn't. Midrabanan doesn't have to be cooked.
No, Midrabanan no.
Midrabanan,
it's asur to take a piece of cheese and put it on your steak, which is fully cooked.
Right.
Yep. Also bahana. That's not also bahana though.
I didn't know. I didn't say it was.
Yeah, no,
it's not really a shtickle basar b'chalav. It's basar v'chalav from the deraisa.
Right. Yeah. But anyways, okay. So let's the other Tanaim hold that anything that's food becomes tamei. Reb Shimon has a chiddush. He says no. Only things that if something cannot be eaten by anybody, meaning from a yid's perspective by anybody, meaning he can't give it to a guy to eat. He can't eat it. He can't give it to a guy to eat it. Then that's not considered food. But he says if it had a time when it was mutter, then that is considered food. So that's what it's saying. Let's pick back up the Gemara. Rav Shimon Aimer, yesh noiser shu metama tumas eichlin, v'yesh noiser she'ena metama tumas eichlin. Noiser is also ba'ana. Noiser is if the carbon got left over from whenever the zman was that it was supposed to eat, so it got left over. So Mela has to be destroyed. So there is a nicer that would be metamatum as and there's a nicer that would not be. Ketzad lon lifnei zrika, if the food was over on lina, meaning was left overnight before they had time to do the zrika, ain't a metamatum as it does not become tamatum as because it never had a shasa kosher. Because like we said, the animal is never kosher until the zrika was done. So if they didn't have the time to do the zrika before it became nicer, so then it's out. But la'achar zrika, but if it went overnight, the carbon went overnight after the zrika, then metamatum eichlin, then it does become tumas because it had a time that it was mutter. But kaimelon ma'ilafnei zrika. What does it mean before zrika? Kaidem shenira zrika. Before, it doesn't mean it had to actually have been sprinkled. It had to be roy to be sprinkled. Right? La'achar zrika. And what does it mean after zrika? La'achar shenira zrika. Before, after it became roy zrika. What does this mean? Kaidem shenira zrika lon maihi. What does it mean that it was roy to have to be sprinkled on the mizbeach? What is that? The loy havi shos b'yoyim lemizrike. There wasn't enough time to do zrika, meaning they samach l'shkiyas achama. They shechted the animal right before shkia, right? So there was no time to do the zrika because the zrika has to be done during the day, right? So therefore, it never had time to be mutter, because by the time the next morning came along, it was already nicer. So this meat, at no point was it ever mutter. So therefore, if it's never mutter, it's not Tomei Tumas Eichlin. But I'm sorry, it doesn't become Tomei Tumas Eichlin. If after it was roy for zrika, it was left over, which means the havishas b'yom lemizrika. There was time in the day to do the zrika. Metama Tumas Eichlin. It is Metama Tumas Eichlin. Alma kala aymed lizrei kazar. So you see, why isn't it totally if the guy did the zrika or not? But it's not saying that. Reb Shimon is not saying that. It's totally in, was there enough time in the day to do the zrika? If there was enough time in the day to do the zrika, so then that's enough. Right? So therefore we're saying must be that it didn't need to actually have a zrika. It needed to have roy to be zara. So memela, it's that's how you know that kol haroy, the zrika is kizaruk dami, which means that the animal was mutter when it got shechted by this guy. It was mutter. It was mutter behana and mutter ba'achila, right? And therefore it's good. Okay, we'll stop over there. Yeah, so let's.
Careful, I stay on for Tehillim tonight.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll do it right away so you get to sleep. Yeah. Shir Mizmala Asaf.